Well, hello there. As your Linux usage gets to the next level, right, at some point you will want to have some backups and some security over your files. Maybe you deleted something yesterday that you have kind of regretted. And of course, there is a trash can feature for that on KDE and ROME or whatnot. But there is something better called Snapshots, and for this you will have to use a file system that supports them, right? So let me not waste too much of your time and let me show it to you. Okay, so we are here in the OpenMandriva installer. Let me just tune my microphone. And I have already advanced to the important part where you select your partitions, right? So you will have to have a supported partition for doing snapshots. In this case, we are going to use Butterfile system. So you can go ahead and use manual partitioning, and this is how I would set it up in a very convenient and simple way, right? So you have to have FE partition for booting the system, right? You can or do not need to have a swap depending on your choice, and of course the system has to be on the Butterfile system. But if you don't want to bother with that, you can just go ahead and erase the whole disk and just make sure to select Butterfile system and let the system installer do the job for you, right? So if you want to use swap, you can select it here, right? With Hibernate, this is something that I sometimes use, so this is a good option for me, but the most important part is to use the Butterfile system. So at this point, if you're happy with the way that everything is set up, just go ahead and go next and finish the entirety of the installation, and I'm gonna see you after the installation is finished. Okay, here we are. So let's log in. Okay, let's zoom in a tiny bit. Okay, so the first thing that you will want to do on a freshly installed ROME version of OpenMandriva is just go to the system and system update, give it the password, and let the system be up to date, because that is always important. There we go. Apparently I am using an installer image that is pretty much up to date. Only the welcome screen application has been changed. So there we go. We are now up to date. Okay, so let's start the console once more. Okay, so the first thing that you will want to do is install Snapper. So DNF install Snapper. There we go. It's pulling whatever it needs. Give it a yes. Wait a little bit, and Snapper has been installed. So one of the first steps that you want to do with configuring Snapper is make a directory. mkdir -p snapper configs. Okay, there we go, and then touch sysconfig snapper. There we go. This is the two steps that you need to do. And we are already rolling, right? So now we want to create a snapshot for our file systems, right? So let's check out which file system do we even have, right? So we have varlog, home, boot, FE, and of course the base partition. Let's see how they are mounted. Mount. So there is a little bit of a mess here to see. But generally what is important is that all of these partitions are actually on the same physical partition, NVMe partition 2. So you can see varlog, home, var, boot, boot FE. It's just that they're separated as different virtual Butterfile system partitions, so which you can see with the @ signed at here, right? So that's your cue that everything was set up the way it is fine. And let's unzoom a little bit, and let's use the snapper for the first time. So snapper minus C root. This is the name of the snap image that we are going to like call create config, and for which file system? For the root file system, right? So this is it, and you can see that everything has succeeded, not only by the fact that the command that has exited back to the shell with no errors, but also if you do ls minus la slash as root dot snapshots. Okay, so we have a snapshots folder here, and if you go to the home and list all of the folders, you will see that there is no snapshot folder here. But we can repeat this command here, and let's create another one for home, and just use the home partition as a destination for snapshots, and voila, list here once again, and we now have snapshots folder here as well. Okay, so let's edit the config file for, let's say, home. Edit snapper configs, and we have home and root file. So you can go ahead and edit the home file. Here is the sub volume already listed file system. You don't really have to touch anything here, but if you want, you can change some of these options. This is the automatic timeline snapshotting. So by default, it will make a snapshot of both of your file systems, because I have created automatic snapshots for both root and home. It will create automatic snapshots every once per hour for the last 10 hours. Also for the last 10 days, once per day. We have nothing weekly, but we do have once per month as well for the past 10 months. And we have once per year for the past 10 years. So feel free to edit these the way you please, right? So there is nothing stopping you from changing these numbers, because they are pretty much self-explanatory. Okay, so what we are going to do is either we can wait for the full hour to happen, because then the next snapshot is going to happen, or we can create one snapshot manually just to see how this works, right? So first of all, let's type df and see that we are now using 3 gigabytes of our hard drive, right? So this is being presented for the home partition, but since all of our partitions are actually using the same physical one, then every single one of them is reporting 3 gigs usage, right? But just remember the fact that we are using 3 gigs of our hard drive. This is important. So let's go ahead and run snapper manually once. Snapper minus C and give it a name, but you have to call the name that you have already given to the config file, and say create a snapshot, right? And give it a description. You don't have to give it a description, but it will be easier for you to find it later. Description testing, okay, description testing, and you press enter, and voila, the snapshot has already been created. So let's go ahead and type df once more, and you can still see that we are still using 3 gigabytes of our hard drive, right? But if you check snapshots, we go to the snapshots folder, we have one snapshot here. It is called 1, and the reason why it's called 1 is that you can run snapper list minus a, and it will tell you that number 1 from the config home has been created on this moment by the user root, and it's called testing. Okay, so this is our manual snapshot from a minute ago, right? And if you type, let's go with the o-hs and number 1, so this is the amount that the folder 1 is taking on our hard drive, right? And it says that it's taking 31 megabytes. Okay, this is fine. Okay, so let's go ahead and create let's say a text file. So a text file on our desktop, and let's type something into our text file and save it, and let's run it again. Okay, so this is our text file, all is good. Let's run a snapshot one more time. Okay, testing 2. Okay, so we have now created a second snapshot, and as you can see, we now have the second folder, do-hs. Let's see how big our snapshots, right? So both of our snapshots are 31 megs big in size, right? So let's go ahead and delete this file. Let's delete it. And this action cannot be undone. Delete permanently. Fine. There is no more file on our desktop. But if we go to the snapshot number 1, we can see that we now have here a folder Dart, cd Dart, desktop. And what do we have on desktop? We have 2 of these shortcuts, right? That we already have gotten with the installation. So let's go ahead and go back and go to the second snapshot. Actually, we have to go like this to the, where are we? Sorry about that. Go to second snapshot, snapshots, Dart, and desktop, and voila, what do we have on this desktop? We have the text file, and let's select it. It's called text file, and voila, there is some letters that I have typed into this file. So what you can do at this point, you can just restore your file as it was prior to being deleted, compared to the time when you made the snapshots, right? So if you just let go for the default snapper configuration to snapshot your system every once per hour, you will have an opportunity to remember that you have deleted something like 5 hours ago and you actually need this, and you're going to just retrieve it from there. If you have deleted something and maybe you have changed the file, now it's different, and then you have changed it again and now it's different again, and maybe you have been working on something and this something that your work has been changing a couple of times, then maybe having these hourly snapshots will help you to restore the version of the file that you need from like 2 hours ago or from 5 hours ago, or even both of these versions, right? Because in one of these versions, if you are programming something and you have deleted a big part of your code and you have just realized that a lot later, you will maybe want to go back to retrieve this part of your code from like 3 hours ago, right? And from 1 hour ago, you will retrieve something else, whatever your combination is, right? You can play around and toy around with these commands and these config files, right? So all is good, and the same will happen with the root folder. So if you make a big change of your root folder, you might want to, restore something from your backup. There is one more important thing. On the internet, you will see that people are putting all of these snapshots like fully automatically into their group bootloader. So in the case when your rolling distro like breaks apart for whichever reason, you might want to boot into a previous snapshot. However, this sounds good on paper, but in practice, it's not all like milk and butter or whatever you call it in English, because not every file can be saved as a snapshot from the system, right? And also, if the snapshot happens at the moment when some file is being accessed or changed, the backed up file could be a little bit broken or corrupted. So have this in mind when you start researching into how you can restore the full system from a previous snapshot, because it's a little bit more complex than you would think. However, what I have showed you so far is a very, very convenient and easy way to do like big changes on this file system, right? So from that perspective, it is a nice thing to have, and it will actually not take too much of your space. You can also limit how much space it takes in the config file. But what the copy on write system on Butterfile system does is basically it does not take as much actual file system storage that the snapshot is taking apparently, right? So if you have made a bunch of changes, you might see that your snapshot is like, I don't know, 5 gigabytes large, just the snapshot folder. But in practice, is not actually taking 5 gigabytes on your actual hard drive. And you can play around and toy around with this, just compare how much the snapshot is big and just how much the size taken on your actual disk is, and then delete the full snapshot and see if it has actually freed up that much space that apparently it has been taking. It will not. So I'm very happy that you have watched this video. I am happy that you have maybe learned something today, and I just want to thank everyone who is basically sponsoring me on coffee and YouTube membership. And I'm gonna see you this evening at the third lesson of our Linux study, right? So see you around, and for the next video next week. Goodbye.